This regional champion just got second place in a big limitless tournament with ORTHWORM. Today I am joined by Matteo, a topping player with a regional win, multiple international tops, and also multiple victory road top cuts. And so they cooked this ORTHWORM team. We'll talk about how it works, how to play specific matchups, and then we'll check out some gameplay. How did this start?
I really don't like Mega Charizard Y. I want to destroy it. Tyranitar is pretty good at doing that. Some of them use Excadrill, some use Corviknight. I wanted a bit more of an offensive version that threatened immediate damage, but could also go very defensive. Well, Garchomp, what if I give this thing Sword Stance? How do I easily get up a Sword Stance? And that's where ORTHWORM comes in. ORTHWORM gets Shed Tail, and it pairs really well with Garchomp. And if I give him a Garchomp Sand Veil, it could be very evil, where I have Substitute Garchomp. And if I dodge a single move, I keep my Substitute up, and I get more Sword Stances. My Tyranitar and ORTHWORM are very fast. So like, what's a good Tailwind setter? Because I think I want Tailwind on this team. And I was like, well, Talonflame doesn't work because of Gale Wings and Sand. And Whimsicott doesn't really work because it doesn't really have synergy with Sand. And then I saw Aerodactyl. It's really good on Sand in particular because it's a Rock type, which means it doesn't take Sand Chip and it can still hold the Focus Sash. And it gets Dual Wing Beat, which can remove one of the biggest threats to Sand teams, which is Sneasler.
Yeah,
and
sure.
It also has Rock Slide for just more Charizard hate in general. I think I hopped on the Aerodactyl trend a little bit early. Obviously now, it's like a very popular Pokemon. Rotom, good Earthquake partner for Garchomp. It's good against Basculegion, which is causing some problems, especially with Choice Scarf, since I can just Thunderbolt it and remove it. And Sneasler is just like one of the best Pokemon in the metagame right now.
So in terms of spreads, not to get into like super specifics, but from what I've seen, your Aerodactyl and Titar are quite fast, your Sneasler is quite fast, and your Garchomp is a slow, super bulky setup mon, right? I mean, people who get the replica will of course get their own copies, but I guess that kind of knowledge helps also inform how you want to pilot this. If you were to take this into a tournament again, you know, let's say your round one is like typical rain team, how would you go about that?
They kind of just fold when I get Garchomp with a +2, possibly behind a sub. So I basically lead against rain teams either Rotom or Earthworm to threaten Volt Switches into my Tyranitar to like block Basculegion from nuking my Earthworm and Pelipper from doing big damage with Weather Ball. Or at least Sneasler Earthworm for if I need to like get rid of something that can threaten my Earthworm fast in close combat, can do that. Or if it's a Floette version, I usually need Sneasler and Earthworm since I can click Dire Claw into the Floette. And I usually bring Garchomp and Tyranitar in the back. Garchomp's obviously going to be the main win con in that matchup, and Tyranitar just makes the rain teams very sad because they can't execute their main game plan.
Let's say they have like the Gengar, Politoed, the Perish mode. I'm guessing you would have to slightly change your plan then.
I usually just lead Aerodactyl Garchomp if it was a Gengar team. I mean, Gengar is most likely not max speed because if it's on the Perish Trap team, it likely needs to have a lot of bulk, which means that Aerodactyl, instead of speed tying it, is probably going to be outspeeding it, going for Tailwind. I usually also bring Rotom because just Volt Switching out of the trap. Incineroar that's also on the team pretty often, being with the Hydro Pump that very useful. So I usually bring some combination of Aerodactyl, Garchomp, Tyranitar, Rotom, sometimes Sneasler if I feel like it. Usually you don't bother setting up against Gengar teams. I like a more aggressive approach. Also pivot heavy with Volt Switch, Rotom.
So let's say you won round one against Rain easily. It was a free matchup basically. Then round two, you go up against Sun. I'm guessing that's maybe even easier, but how do you go about that matchup with this team?
Charizard itself is very sad against this team, but it's usually the offensive partners that are the problem with Sun. I usually lead Aerodactyl Tyranitar or Aerodactyl Sneasler, like fake out Tailwind and then immediately start blasting damage. If it's like a Sneasler, you can dual wing beat that, a very offensive lead, and Tyranitar Aerodactyl is a lot better into the Charizard lead. I usually also bring Rotom in the back instead of Garchomp, because Garchomp isn't actually that good. If there's like a Whimsicott, kind of depends on the specific team.
So once again, round two, you win with ease. Now we're gonna get into the harder territory. Let's say that round three, your opponent is now playing Floette Balance. I guess it has Garchomp, it has Aerodactyl.
Aerodactyl mirrors, especially with like offensive partners like Floette, are usually like very annoying to deal with because Aerodactyl brings speed ties, and speed ties bring potential for rock hit flinches. Usually the games come down to Aerodactyl speed ties, and sometimes even my opponent's win con is Aerodactyl speed tie into them flinching Rock Slide, which has actually happened to me multiple times. You just pray to the speed tie gods They don't lose the speed tie and get flinched. Usually I lead either Rotom or Dactyl to just avoid speed ties, click Electro over Rock Slide, or Tailwind if I think they're gonna protect. Or I lead Sneasler Aerodactyl to click Fake Out into the Aerodactyl and Tailwind, and then next turn click Rock Slide CC into the Aerodactyl, get rid of it, deny Tailwind with a Tyranitar and Rotom in the back.
You beaten this one because you won all the speed ties, you flinched them 7 times, then your next matchup is a Sand team. How would you go about
Yeah.
Sand? I'm guessing Garchomp is incredible, Sneasler is incredible. Honestly, the Sand matchup looks really good with this team as well.
Yeah, so the only issue I would say I have with Sand teams is Corviknight. Corviknight often comes with Sinistcha, and Rotom does not like Sinistcha. So if you get rid of Corviknight, or if there's no Sinistcha, I think the matchup is pretty fine. Do you think they'll start off with Corviknight, try and get bulk ups or Iron Offenses off early? In that case, you probably want to be leading Rotom. I think like Garchomp is always a fine lead into Sand team since they don't really have good ways to immediately threaten it. Even if they don't need Corviknight, you can just full switch out. If you lose your Rotom without getting value out of it, and Corviknight is getting boosts, you've lost this game.
Oof.
I think as long as you preserve your Rotom while not letting Corviknight get out of control, it's fine.
I'm guessing the last matchup that's like really predefined is the new King Gambit Frostlass Sneasler with a Firewater Grass core.
But usually Aerodactyl Tyranitar with you probably want Rotom. And you can decide if you want Sneasler or Garchomp as the last. But as long as you lead Tyranitar Aerodactyl and bring Rotom, the matchup should be fine. Palafin can be annoying if it switches out into Hero form and you don't get a lot of damage onto it, or you don't get rid of the partners, it can get out of hand. I feel like denying Frostlass's Aura Veil is really important, because if Aura Veil goes up, Palafin gets a lot harder to remove.
What's your reliable way of doing that?
Rock Slide in Sand can sometimes even one-shot the Frostlass. So like on the first turn, you can kind of ignore Frostlass, get up Tailwind, if you so please. On the second turn, if they didn't Mega Turn 1, that's when you target into it, because that's when it does threaten Aurora Veil.
So is turn 1 like a mind game because they could
Not
just
really.
protect and then like
'Cause
set up the thing after
if
you,
you
or
get up Tailwind on turn 1, then they protect turn 1, then suddenly Aerodactyl doesn't have to click Tailwind anymore. And then it gets like a Rock Slide, which means Frostlass in the snow still isn't safe. Because usually, if it's just Tyranitar attacking, Frostlass in the snow can take a hit. But not if Aerodactyl is also clicking an attack. So it's actually,
I
it may
see,
seem
okay.
like a mind game on paper, but it's actually not.
So your turn 1 is always a safe Tailwind plus Mega Rock Slide.
If you think you're gonna hit Rock Slide, then yes, it's a safe play. If it's like Sneasler with Fake Out, it can get a little bit tricky because they could go for the turn 1 Mega Veil Fake Out. But if you predict that, you can turn 1 Mega as well while protecting your Tyranitar.
So Sneasler creates the mind games, but without Sneasler, there is
can
no.
create the mind game, but I still feel like it's not horrendous. Even if they get up the veil, it just makes it harder than it has to be.
And also, if they lead Sneasler, it means they didn't lead Palafin, which is already a win,
Yeah, which
right?
means they don't immediately get the Palafin, and also means it's vulnerable to a dual wing beat. You can dual wing beat Mega Rock Slide. Like, even if they fake out their Aerodactyl, you still get value out of your Tyranitar, then you can, like, have enough chip on Sneasler to where dual wing beat in the veil still KO Sneasler.
Thank you so much for sharing this. We will head into a game now. So we are in team preview. It looks like we're starting with Sneasler, Aerodactyl, and then Garchomp and Rotom in the back into this Floette King Gambit balance team. We see a Whimsicott as well and a Clefable and a Basculin Legion. So they have a fast mode, but they also have, you know, the more balancey mons on there. This is the win-in for a day 2, by the way. So it is a pretty high stakes game. We see the Sneasler and Aerodactyl versus the Sneasler and Basculin Legion. So instant fake out pressure, very, very important right here. The Basculin Legion note has flip turned into Whimsicott in a previous game. So that is something that can be called out. And yes, we are going to call it out with a dual wing beat into Basque, even though Sneasler can fake out that Aerodactyl as well. So that is definitely also risky. We see the opposing Sneasler protect. Apparently it was Adamant Sneasler, and so therefore they would always lose the fake out war. So it's not actually quite as risky as you may think. You know, technically you would just fake out that Sneasler, and then you can dual wing beat into the Basque if they go into Whimsicott again. But if they don't, you know, then you kind of just lost a lot of health on your Aerodactyl. So not fully safe either. So we're going to check out what the Basque goes into here. And they do indeed go for the Whimsicott. So that is a big, big call out if this dual wing beat connects, and it connects indeed. Oof, that was also relatively close. I didn't know Whimsicott could take that much, actually. I thought it would do like 60 with the first one. Maybe I don't know my dual wing beat calcs well enough yet, though. So then we'll see who comes in next. We see the Basque Legion come back. That makes sense because technically the Basque could blow up the Aerodactyl from here. Then at least you deny the Tailwind. Of course, you can also dual wing beat the Sneasler, but is that safe? The Basque can also call you out and just go, wave crash your Sneasler, ignore the Aerodactyl. So there's always some call to be made here. The Sneasler chooses to click Protect, says, no, I don't believe you. And yeah, okay, goes for Last Respect, so rest in peace, Aerodactyl. Being locked into Last Respects here is fine because there's already 1 KO, so that's a 100 base power move. Definitely going to hurt this team. You don't really have a good resist on the team beyond Tyranitar, so that's kind of calling that Tyranitar isn't in the back. Then again, you have a Sneasler, so you don't really need to call it much. You could always close combat to T-Tar. Their Sneasler is also not afraid of your Sneasler because close combat and Dire Claw are not going to do much. So we see Rotom and Garchomp in the back here. Both are relatively scared of that Last Respect, but keep in mind, Rotom can also do a lot of damage back to Basque. And it's probably living a Last Respect. Is that Copium? Maybe that's Copium. So, next up, we have Close Combat into Sneasler, okay, and we have Thunderbolt into Basque. We're just clicking big moves at this point. I think Basque is faster normally because of the Scarf, but we're not even going to find out. King Gambit is coming in instead. I'm guessing they really wanted to keep that Basque alive because a Last Respect's endgame is very real, potentially. So then we have Sneasler using Close Combat on their Sneasler, which will also proc the White Herb. I'm pretty sure we've not seen that proc yet, so... yes, there we go. So defense drop, special defense drop, and then goes right back up, which means Unburden is up. So this Sneasler is now extremely fast. Close Combat does a bunch of damage to Rotom. Their defense and special defense also drop, so also White Herb is active right now. But we already saw the speed interaction here, right? So this Sneasler is faster than the other Sneasler. Again, that other Sneasler is probably adamant, judging from the damage on the Rotom right here as well. So the speed advantage from the Sneasler is very, very huge. You can always close combat either slot here, and you're probably taking a KO, so it depends on calls of protects of either slot. You're probably losing your Rotom here, though. It's hard to say for sure, but, Sucker Punch can take it out, Close Combat can take it out. It depends on which slot is protecting, basically, and the Sneasler protects, okay? That does mean that since the Sneasler clicked Close Combat into the King Gambit, sure, Sucker Punch does a little bit of damage, but that Close Combat is wiping out this King Gambit right here. So now it is a 3 versus 2. It is just Basque Legion with Sneasler. That's looking rough for the Basque player, but it's not over yet because this Rotom is very, very low. So the Basque can lock into Aqua Jet and take it out, even though it's resisted. It should be enough. It's a Basque Legion. It's adaptability boosted as well if it's Choice Scarf. So yeah, this is a Basque Aqua Jet type endgame, but there's a Garchomp in the back that's perfectly healthy. Here, a call to be made with Protect, because I'm pretty sure your Close Combat dropped your defense and special defense again, so Aqua Jet might even pick up, it's adaptability boosted. Thunderbolt into one of the slots, though that's probably never sticking, either of these slots can take out Rotom. You're more so maybe doing this for the free switch into Garchomp, and if you don't get the free switch, then you are able to, take out the KO, take out the Basque right there. Which would then result in a Sneasler versus 3 Mons, which would mean you always win anyway. Sneasler doesn't have spread damage. But so Rotom, taken out by Close Combat. So now the Garchomp comes in. And Sneasler is free to be attacked because it just protected. Keep in mind, though, that the Sneasler here is still the fastest thing on the field. It's Unburden boosted. So Close Combat into that Sneasler, who also has his stats dropped once again. So it should be taken out, even though it's resisted. But they click Protect once again. So now the Basque Legion gets to Aqua Jet the Sneasler very safely. And does that. Yes, it takes out Sneasler because Close Combat dropped you previously. So now it is Sneasler Basque versus the one Garchomp. Now, the Earthquake is going to do a decent chunk to Garchomp. But keep in mind, this Garchomp is leftovers on this team. So you can probably... you're not protecting here, I guess, because you really need to Earthquake this Sneasler right here, Like, you don't want to get into a protect mind game with Sneasler where they can protect when you can't and so forth. So close combat, really big chunk of damage. Oof, all the way into the red. Another drop, Earthquake will kill 7 Sneaslers like this in a row. Yep, and then the Basket Legion lives on 1%. 1% is crazy work. But again, this is a leftovers Garchomp, so you get some health back. You then get to click a protect, meaning you get back some more health. This is looking like a win, but I mean, Aqua Jet can still crit, you know, and I'm pretty sure that can pick up with a crit. So we go for the protect here. Leftover is going to give you some more recovery. Yeah, Aqua Jet goes into the protect, does absolutely nothing. Leftovers gives you some more health. You go to 56, and then you click one last move, and you pray that the Basket Legion does not crit the Aqua Jet right here. Aqua Jet goes in, and oof, a small survive right here. Very rough, and the win goes to Mateo. So yeah, very, very interesting team. We didn't see the Earthworm in this game, but we did see a lot of the other pieces. The Rotom was very interesting. And that's basically the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this. Be sure to subscribe for more content like this, and I will see you soon. Ciao.